I found out, and this is something that people should listen to, that we will, any cancer patient will continue to have recurrences
Mm-hmm.
until he or she finds the root cause. What caused the disease to come in? In this case, cancer, which was, my experience. And once you find that root cause, which is usually a combination of the mind and emotions,
Mm-hmm. Which manifest in the body,
exactly,
right?
manifests in the body.
Yes.
Once you clear that clutter, your healing starts again.
Welcome to the podcast Emotional Intelligence, your greatest asset and key to success. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Carlaccio, coming to you from the Greater New Haven, Connecticut area. As an emotional intelligence, or EQ coach, I'm committed to helping people develop both emotional intelligence and mental fitness. That is, you'll come to regard problems as situations that help you learn and grow. EQ is a way of being and doing in the world that enables you to develop and sustain a positive relationship with yourself and others, at home, at work, and everywhere in between. Please subscribe to this podcast and tap the like button so more people can enjoy the benefits of EQ. And now, here's the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you're here, and I am very glad to introduce you to my new friend, Georges Cordoba. He is, I don't know, nothing short of a miracle. That might be the way that I would describe you. And I am excited for you to tell our audience your story. So today we're going to talk about wellness, and we're going to talk about the different ways in which our Western society thinks it can make us well, and how a holistic approach is actually often an even better answer. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about George's. So first of all, he is a stage 4 melanoma and metastasis of the brain cancer survivor. Yes, you heard that right. And he fought the disease for 10 years, and he had 10 surgeries, including 4 craniotomies. The pharmaceuticals nearly destroyed his body, so he took a leap of faith and went into the natural, holistic route to heal. And here he is after 12 years free of cancer. And God bless you for that. I just think that's so amazing. So 7 years ago, Georges took another leap of faith, and he transitioned from being a chief technology officer to working in health and wellness. And that's why I have him here today. So he works with people who are dealing with cancer or the threat of cancer, and he helps them to transform their health and their vitality. He became a holistic coach and a holistic master of transformative coaching and a functional nutritionist and a professional speaker. And he's also a rapid transformation therapist, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about that. And he's also a hypnotherapist and a Reiki master. So Georges and I connected on a lot of different levels, and so it made sense for me to ask him to be here with us today. He's also an Amazon best-selling author for his book, Beating the Odds, My Journey Through Holistic Health to Overcoming Advanced Cancer. And as an athlete, he played NCAA Division I tennis for New Mexico State University. He enjoys competing in 10K and half marathon races, and he is let me see, an accomplished piano player, having studied at conservatory. So George is, if there is such a thing as a Renaissance man, I think you're looking at him right now. And all of his information will be in the show notes. So welcome. How are you today?
Very good, Jamie. And thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be in your show and to share with your audience some good stuff, including obviously my journey of
Yeah.
10-year battle with cancer.
Yes, and before we get to that, I just want to say a couple of things because I am working as a substance use disorder recovery coach in a clinic. And what I find is that a lot of people are medicated. on a lot of stuff. And doctors used to medicate me as well. And I am no longer on medication because actually I found a lot of healing through holistic health measures myself, whether it's
Mhm.
yoga, meditation, Reiki, and just, really adopting a different mindset. Positive intelligence and emotional intelligence have really changed everything for me. And I have found that the thinking has so much more to do with your health than sometimes the drugs. And sometimes they can be detrimental. So I just wanted to start with that because I think that might be a springboard into you telling us a little bit about your story with drugs and chemo, and then finally getting to this place of drug free and cancer free.
Yeah, sure. Um, as many people know, there are about 12 rules of the mind. One of the rules is that the mind goes to what is familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of us, particularly in the Western societies, what is really familiar in our minds is to go to an oncologist and in a way give him or her all the power, and we become a patient and basically do whatever they say. So I did that. In my Greek, I'm half Greek and half Spanish. From my parents are from Madrid and Athens. On my Greek side of the family, I grew up seeing uh, family members. My grandfather, his brother, my grandmother's sisters, then an uncle, then another uncle. Later on, my godfather, and then 3 weeks before I was diagnosed, my mother passed of cancer. So when I looked at my family landscape, from the Greek side, I really thought I was doomed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I fear the disease since then. And 3 weeks, like I said, after she passed, I couldn't warn her. I was diagnosed already with malignant melanoma. I started in the top of my skull, and I did that. I just went. Basically I couldn't believe it. I was in shock, but everything happened, and next thing I know, I'm at an oncologist's office. I was recommended to him. The whole journey started. First of all, I was lucky because the same day I got my diagnosis, I was, because I have family doctors. I mean, doctors in my family. I was able to be seen by one of the top dermatologists in Southeast Florida. I was living in Miami, Florida at the time, from Sylvester Cancer Center, and I reached out, but he couldn't see me in 7 weeks. So I called my buddy. He's my daughter's grand godfather, and he said, "No worries. I went to school with him, and he'll see you today." So we managed, and on the afternoon, he removed my first lesion in the brain, and basically he did recommend go on with this surgeon oncologist. He'll do a sentinel biopsy, and which was, by the way, invasive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started just accepting all this stuff coming into my body. In no time, I had my first surgery, which, by the way, this tumor in the top of my head came back. And so I had my first craniotomy. And at the same time, the doctor said I was going to get 2 for 1. He actually removed 23 lymph nodes from the right side of my neck, because there was a biopsy behind my ear, a lymph node that came out positive. So they decided to take a whole branch of lymph
Wow.
nodes, and there were three that he couldn't get to. And so he decided, without asking my wife or anyone, I was asleep,
Ooh.
to actually sacrifice one of my neck muscles to get to those three lymph nodes. And it so happened that out of the 23, those three were positive.
Mm.
So, that was basically, I consider myself lucky with that. Obviously, I had some issues later on, because that muscle was not there. And if you see me without a shirt, you can see that I have a cavity there, even though nature is amazing. The other muscle, there's two there, really kind of like made it up, but not completely. And right after that, they put me on this. They started to try things. Melanoma was pretty unknown here in the States. In Europe, especially in Australia, they were way ahead of us in terms of prevention and things like that. So they put me on interferon. I was in 5 months in this drug that actually it was killing me from the get go. I just felt horrible. I kept trying to keep my positive attitude, saying, "Well, if I feel horrible, imagine what it's doing to the tiny cells that you can't see without a scan."
Mm-hmm.
But really, it was taking a toll on me. 5 months into that, I'll go pretty quickly. I was having some issues on my left ear, and they did a biopsy of one of the lymph nodes by my ear, and it was positive. So they decided to extract 22 lymph nodes on my left side of my neck, but no, they didn't have to sacrifice a muscle or anything like that. Two of those 22 were positive, and that started my journey. They tried because the interferon didn't work. They put me in a different type of chemo, and we tried that. I was in remission, as they call it, a few months, maybe 6, 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then it appeared again. And this time was in one of my glute muscles. Melanoma is so aggressive and unpredictable that it's really a rough type of cancer to beat, or even for doctors when they're doing what they know. Um, so all in all, I was having surgery, then I would have treatment, then remission, then recurrence, then surgery, treatment, remission, all through 8 years. And in year 8, after 3 months being clear of cancer, all of a sudden I started to stutter. I was
Mm.
stuttering. I was speaking more Spanish than English, as Spanish is my first language. And at one point, the kids and my wife, they were wondering, they knew something was wrong. I was getting these massive headaches, and so they kept asking me if I was okay. I said yes, but they noticed certain things. Like I would go and brush my teeth and come out of the bathroom, and when my wife would go in, she'll see the toothbrush with the paste, but I didn't brush my teeth.
Oh wow.
Or
So there was a definitely some misfiring going on.
yes, yes, and so there was several things that happened for a few days, and so she was already very, suspicious, my wife and the kids, and so one morning, after that incident with the toothbrush, she asked me, "Are you okay?" I was going to go see a client in downtown Miami, and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You want me to drive you, or take the metro rail?" And I said, "No, I'm fine. I'll just park there." And it
Mm-hmm.
was a whole day thing. That we had a couple meetings and a presentation. So I get there, we go, everything is fine, and I go to lunch with them, three of them and myself. And as we ordered lunch, next thing I know, they finished, and I had my plate was full, and they kept asking me. I would say, "No, I'm okay, but go ahead and eat." So they realized something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they paid the bill, and then they actually made sure that we went across the street uh, in the middle, because they knew something was not right. And as we were going up the elevator, I lost my vision
Oh
for
gosh.
a few seconds. It seemed like eternity, but I completely went blind, and that really scared me. It just came back. So my client, actually the CEO, asked me for my wife's number, and call her, and she says, do not let him go. take the car keys and I'll be there. I'm gonna take the metro rail, and that was good in downtown from where we lived, where she worked. She's in the medical field, by the way. She got there, and we didn't drive. That particular metro rail took us to the hospital, and we saw the oncologist. He made a call. And so he was waiting for us. And they asked me a few questions which I did not answer. I
Hmm.
was wrong. They asked me who the president was, and I said Ronald Reagan. They
You
asked
lost a
me,
few decades.
yes, I did, and he would ask me for like a caller in Spanish, and I would say it, and then I had a hard time, repeat it in English, things like that. So he made the decision right there. Says, "Look, we're gonna keep him here. We're gonna hospitalize him. We have the best surgeon, neurosurgeon in town, and one of the best in the country." He was only 37 years old, by the way. But so that was my first Mets in the brain, and ended up having a surgery. It was close to 10 hours. They open up. I don't think you can see it, um, Jamie, but
Probably not. It's kind of hard to see.
yeah, with the lining, but it's from ear to ear, like out in my front lobe.
Hmm.
At that time, the tumor grew so fast, it was almost like a key line, not a
Oh.
big full-size line, but a
Hmm.
key line.
That's big. It's
That's
still pretty
big.
big.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was really affecting a lot of my, like I said, my vision. I was stuttering, and
And
but
then your
it
memory, I mean, it sounds like
yes,
it affected every single part of your life.
absolutely. Well, that's something that I didn't mention. But when I was diagnosed, my kids were already going through the trauma of losing, Yaya. They called her my mother, their
Hmm.
grandmother. They were very close to her, and all of a sudden, I had a hard time deciding, do I tell them? But I did say, I did in the afternoon when they removed it. It was an ambulatory procedure, the first one. So I told him, I called my wife. She was, do we do it? And we realized, yes, we'll do it. And it turned out to be pretty much a trauma for them. Right off the bat, my youngest and only girl, Claudia, 7 years. She was 7 years old. She was, Dad, we our family's breaking. We lost
Hmm.
grandma, and now, what's going to happen with you? And so that added a lot of, that whole experience added a lot of stress for me. However, and we'll go back to the craniotomies and stuff.
Well, let's also get back to like the difference between Western medical
Oh
treatment, the
yeah,
traditional, so
yeah,
that we can move
yeah,
on to
yeah,
some of
yeah.
the like
Ab-
why
Absolutely.
you're here today.
Yeah, absolutely. You can read about the kids in my book.
Yeah.
And so I had my first craniotomy, and again, I accepted. They said, "Look, we're gonna put you on a 6 week radiotherapy in your head. So you're gonna come for 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, and we'll do radiotherapy." They did say that one of the effects there could be that I would get more tumors,
Mm.
and so I accepted. They said, "Look, we recommend you doing this or whatever is around there. We're gonna make sure it's gone." But what happened actually was the opposite. All of a sudden, 8 more tumors showed up, and they were all melanoma. And they tried to get rid of the small ones with gamma knife. I had two gamma knife procedures. They're really a surgery in a way. It's a 2 hour to 3 hour procedure where they try to go with targeted uh, radiotherapy, like laser beams, to those tumors, and it was successful for a couple of them. Uh, there were three that definitely needed to be extracted, and thank God for that, they were operable. But there were two that were not operable out of the whole thing. So I just took the news and continued to do my stuff. But at that time, when they came back, and I had after the two gamma knives, and I had my third craniotomy, because I had the first one, like I say, it was a recurrence, and they had to really go in there and open up. So on my third one, they found this new drug, this new chemo that would penetrate the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and that was good news to them because the brain is very, very protective for toxic
Right.
stuff. So I agreed. My wife, everybody, the doctors in my family, yeah, take it. This is great. And by the way, it was oral. It was there were capsules,
Mm-hmm.
and each capsule, so you have an idea, was $1,000.
Yeah, that's so a lot of people, if they had to have something like that, it's not accessible to everybody.
Well, yeah, and
I
for
mean, it's
me,
not, you have to have certain kind of insurance or you have to have a heck of a lot of money.
yeah, we kind of had both. My wife had an amazing insurance with the Baptist Hospital down there,
Mm-hmm.
and but on year three we had already consumed our deductibles and all this stuff, so we had to start tapping into 401ks, IRAs, college funds for the kids. We had it all figured out. 5 kids we have.
Mm.
So and now they're adults, but so that was another tough situation. But so I took this. This was supposed to be 5 pills, one Monday through Friday, one pill a day. Take a break for a week, and then go 5 more days. On my sixth pill, my sixth capsule, which was on a Monday, I made a decision that this stuff was killing me. I was literally off the roof. I mean, I was just so tense, so anxious, so um, I just don't wish this stuff to anyone. And so I did a lot of praying. I did. I always meditated and visualized with my tennis career. So I started to use that even more than before, just to make a decision. I was faced with this decision to say, look, I've been going on this 8 years, and it's the same cycle. I end up with the surgery. They give me treatment. I go to remission, reoccurrence, surgery, and this I cannot live like this. And needless to say, with this type of drugs, and so I talked to my wife about this. We called the doctors in my family. They all thought, no, keep going. You're doing good. You're strong. You're an athlete. You have a great attitude. But I said, look, I know inside of myself, and I have to say this: our intuition is our best coach. And by the way, healing happens, and you know this, from the inside out. You had to make some changes, some radical changes, but it takes some faith and courage to do this type of decision.
You got tired of all of the surgeries. You got tired of feeling sick. You got tired of not getting well.
Hmm.
But you talked about, I can't do this anymore, and you began praying. So it sounds like faith entered into the picture. And then
Yes.
you mentioned intuition. So why don't we spend some time talking about the role of the mind and move on from some
Yes.
of the physical stuff to some of the mental
Yes.
and emotional and spiritual
Absolutely.
stuff.
Great. And those are the three other legs that I teach and as a holistic coach. But yes, on the mental side, particularly when I decided to go natural, I began to do a lot of visualization. For example, I would do this 2 3 times a day. I would imagine the Pac-Man creatures, that game Pac-Man,
Mm-hmm.
these creatures eating up all the tumors in my body, in my head, wherever they would be. And I also, because I'm a person of faith, I would see this basically this graceful ray, a holy ray, or coming down to me. In my case, it was light blue, coming from inside my head and going through my body, melting every possible tumor in myself within, and a couple other things that I would do, knowing that the mind learns by repetition. So
Right. So how
yeah,
often, like you did this every day, but for how long at a time? Did you do it for several hours? Did you
I
do
I
it?
did those three, and then I found out about forgiveness, so I started meditating on forgiveness as well. Probably a altogether about 6 hours a day,
So
all the time. I will go on.
that's
Yeah,
that's a lot. So I want that's a lot. People might think I don't have the luxury, but I think if you're trying to save your life,
exactly.
then you do those things because you probably couldn't work anyway. But what's the role of forgiveness? How did that fit in?
Yeah, I found out. I just did a talk in Toronto last weekend, and there was a holistic MD. He's an MD, but he's now applying more holistic approach in his practice. He's not an oncologist, and he did say that all disease, all chronic disease, without exception, comes are emotional,
Mm-hmm.
and because of those emotions and other things that we do, mindset and anxiety and eating fast and all this stuff, we produce serotonin and we produce cortisol, which is very acidic for our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And if all disease starts in an inflamed body, now we know the formula. But forgiveness, and I'm writing a book, the title is Forgiveness is Healing.
It
uh,
is, but
yes.
yeah.
And
So
yeah,
I mean,
and
who thinks forgiveness? I've got cancer. I'm imagining these Pac-Man person things eating the cancer cells, and you're imagining this beautiful divine blue light healing you. What
mhm.
made you think forgiveness was so important?
Well, it is said that if you seek, you shall find. I was just a master in Google, looking around and trying to find my own information, because everybody has something to tell you, and it could drive you crazy and very confused. So I did it
Yes.
on my own. It was me with with Google, and somehow one of my employees, I don't know why she thought about this, but gave me a book titled Emotional Intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and forgot the author right now. It's been a long time, but with that I had the intuition, that the discernment to look into forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that I had a lot of clutter in
Mm.
me in terms of forgiving others, being forgiven, and the toughest one, forgiving myself.
Yes.
So I actually humbled myself. I basically surrendered to the process, to the universe. I call it God, and I said, I'm gonna put my faith into action. Faith without action is dead. So I looked and looked, and I started to really. I got at work, forgiving people. A couple of them were passed away, but there were some exercises that you can do, surrogate stuff, and I managed to do it very well in a retreat, a spiritual retreat. But the ones that were alive, I just went very humble, said, I forgive you. And many times it happened because I wasn't a saint, let's say. I was a youngster. They didn't even remember. But
Mm-hmm.
I did have that poison on me. I had that stuff on me. And then, uh, and then asking for forgiveness, and forgiving myself. There's one scene that I think is what really stopped the recurrences on me. And my wife and I, my friends, everybody just really, they had me already in the cemetery,
Oh gosh.
especially the doctors and stuff. So they invited me everywhere they could. I said, and we love music, like you said. So um, many of us liked, Fleetwood Mac, and they were in town. So we went to see Fleetwood Mac. My wife and I enjoyed the concert, but we cried from the very first song. We looked at each other, we cried, and we just forgave each other. We were just hugging like for 2 hours, two and a
Hmm.
half hours. And both myself and her, we can, just say, look, that was healing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just healing. These
Did you
tears were,
send Fleetwood Mac a thank you card?
no, I didn't. I should have.
Yeah.
I should have. But they broke
So
up.
let's
Yeah.
just talk about this. We could get sidetracked on Fleetwood Mac very easily. So the forgiveness thing is huge because you mentioned a very important word in there, poison.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what's in our bodies is poison,
It is.
and it came from our heads. It
Yes.
may have been something you ate, but oftentimes the thinking, the patterns, the
Yes.
rumination, that's poisonous. And that's where the cortisol can come in, right? The stress hormones
Absolutely.
come in because all of a sudden we're thinking this is bad, or that person is bad, or that person wronged me, or I'm a bad
Mhm.
person. So,
Absolutely.
speaking about emotional intelligence is important because emotional intelligence isn't just about emotional regulation. That might be the umbrella way of thinking about
Mm-hmm.
it. But what's more specific is resilience. In the face of difficulty, what do we do when we are faced with whether it is something small like a financial setback or something
Mm-hmm.
really major like recurrent brain cancer where you think you're going to die and they keep taking out your lymph nodes and part of your brain. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't get much worse than that. But
Right.
your thinking shifted. You started relying on the divine instead of on human intervention. And human intervention's good. I'm not going to poo-poo doctors. Doctors are
Right.
great. They serve a really
Absolutely.
important purpose in our world, but
Mm-hmm.
clearly that kind of medical intervention may have saved your life with the lymph nodes especially, but what really seemed to turn things around was that you changed the way you looked at the world and the way you looked at yourself and the way you looked at other people.
Absolutely. Yes.
And when we don't forgive, when we're in this blaming mode or shaming
Mm-hmm.
mode, those are all the opposite of emotional intelligence. And that's where, and again, forgiving ourselves is important, but we can't get to the place of this kind of maudlin self-pity of, oh, I'm a bad
Mm-hmm.
person. We're
Yes.
not bad people. Sometimes we do bad things or we make bad decisions or
Mm-hmm.
we make decisions that didn't turn out the way we expected or we didn't think them through. There's even different ways of thinking about that. And yeah, there are real harms in the world. But one of the things in the recovery community, especially in 12-step programs, is forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest keys to recovery is forgiveness.
Absolutely.
And if you go to bed mad, if you go to bed thinking, you have nightmares, you start thinking about things. I
Mm-hmm.
talk to a lot of people all day every day, and I see how their thinking got them where they are.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're just right. You just couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it better. And it is so important because I found out, and this is something that people should listen to, that we will, any cancer patient will continue to have recurrences
Hmm.
until he or she finds the root cause. What caused the disease to come in? In this case, cancer, which was my experience. And once you find that root cause, which is usually a combination of the mind and emotions,
Which manifest in the body,
exactly,
right?
manifests in the body.
Yes.
Once you clear that clutter, your healing starts again.
Hmm.
Um, I am very blessed to really have done some minor in nutrition when I was in college, competing and obviously studying engineering. But I did a minor in nutrition to have an edge playing the game, and so
Hmm.
that helped me a lot later on. And and like I said, doctors are not, they're not nutritionists, they're not psychologists, they're not acupuncturists, they're not massage therapists. They just know what they do, and that's great. They trying their best.
Hmm.
I would not be here without those 10 surgeries.
Right.
Maybe you're right. I mean, the ones in the brain were really key. I could have a stroke or whatever. Nothing happened. But I agree, and this is something my wife and I discussed earlier, the years that I was cancer free. I never said I'm in remission. that psychologically leaves a little seed in there that it could come back. No, I'm
Right.
real
Yeah.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is so key. I have seen that I used to think of myself as a victim of my life. And when I was a victim of my life, I was a chronic migraine sufferer. And that was a big thing. Migraines ruled my life. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. There were days I could not get out of bed.
Mhm.
And I had started getting these when I was 6. So from the time I was 6 until a couple of years ago, when everything literally turned on a dime for me, and I stopped realizing I was not my trauma, I'm not a victim, I'm not my disease, I'm just Jamie, a beloved
Mhm.
child of a loving God. And as soon as I shifted my thinking, everything in my life changed.
Absolutely.
Everything. It was complete transformation. And I still like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I'll just
Of
put that out
course.
there for everybody that I haven't quite given up ice cream, but
No,
I
of
do
course.
put better food in my body, and I put better thoughts in my head every day.
Absolutely. It is key. Boy, I don't know how much time we have, but it
A
is
couple
key to
minutes.
nourish yourself. Don't allow people or the media anything to step on the beautiful garden of your mind. You keep it with flowers, with nice, beautiful green trees, and don't allow anyone to damage that until then you start growing weeds. That's
Yeah.
one thing.
Hmm.
And then in terms of what we put inside of ourselves, if we learn to love ourselves and be, just give us ourselves a pat on the back, being proud of ourselves, many things happen as well,
Yeah.
including on the emotional side. With the nutrition, and you just said it, but I'll repeat it. If you are stressed out, producing cortisol, you remember a song, something that happened in the past through a movie or whatever, and you're eating just in 10 minutes. There is the same for us nutritionists. 25% of our digestion and nutrition is the things we put in our mouth, our food, what we eat. 75% is who we are when we eating.
Oh, I
And
love that. Oh my gosh. I can't believe you just said that. That is so awesome. It's who we are when we are eating.
yes, absolutely. And
Y-
and
Oh,
that's what goes wrong. We interrupt our digestion over and over, weekly, monthly, and yearly, until the body gives up. And what happens, for example, we in America, the average person chews 6 times before they swallow. So
mm-hmm.
we send our stomach a bomb. It's supposed to be processed in our mouth. We chew more, our saliva enzymes help us process the food, and then we swallow. If we don't do that, like I said, the average person, and I'm not saying they're chewing, let's say, a jelly or a mashed potato, but if you're eating something that you need, the average you should
Like
be
meat, especially meat.
meat. You should chew
Yeah.
you should chew
That's why we
between
have
20,
teeth.
yeah, exactly, 20 to 32 times. So once, because we don't do that, or we're in a hurry, we have to do errands, we're stressed out,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we're really going mad with traffic, we do not have a good digestion. And with time, the stomach, all it does, I don't know what to do with this, it's not processed. It sends it as fat. The fat produces acidity. And not only that, we didn't get the nutrients we need.
Hmm.
So we were hungry 3 hours later. And there
Yeah.
you go. That's why more than half our nation is overweight.
Yeah. Well,
All a
there,
chain
yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
You know, there's something called mindful eating,
Yes.
and it would be a luxury for some people that maybe feel like I don't have that much time on my lunch break. But the idea of and I don't do it all the time either, but when I do, what I do when I do mindful eating is I thank the earth for the food. I thank the soil
Amen.
that made it possible for the food to grow. I thank the farmer that planted the
Yes.
food. I thank the person who harvested the food. I thank the person who picked up the food from the farm and drove it to a store. I thank the person at the store who put it on the shelf. And I thank God for giving me the means to buy the food to put it on my table. And I thank God for the opportunity to eat it with whomever I'm eating with, like my son or something.
Excellent.
And just slowing that. And by the way, that didn't take very long. I said it slowly, but in my mind, it doesn't take long to make all of those sort of
Right.
thank yous in my head before I dig in. But
Absolutely.
just doing that reminds me of where that food came from. Even if it
Absolutely.
came from a fast food restaurant, it grew in the ground somewhere. That
Yes.
bun, that meat or that piece of lettuce or whatever it is that you're eating, you know,
Yes.
it came from the earth.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Actually, the first couple weeks in my program, we only work about on the physical body about how to eat and how to actually. I even have a couple documents. One is called sensual eating,
Mm.
and it's really all about. And I'll send you some of this stuff, and then if the crowd wants, you'll have a link. They can go to my site and download some of
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things.
that would be great.
But there are some tricks there to help our body restore. And like I say, knowledge is power.
Hmm.
Once you know it, now you have to take action. And so, in many cases, we have to, I have to make sure my client goes through some routine, and I give them action steps for 21 days.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah,
beginning of a change of a habit.
right.
And so it is wonderful because they see quick, they really see a fast change in their body, in their energy, the way they sleep, which is very important too.
Yeah.
So but just to end up the whole thing with the meds, um if I knew then what I know now, I would have never gone through oncology and in terms of chemo and radiotherapy. It's just not. We do, I needed to find out when I say forgiving myself. I always ask why, until really I found, and I said to myself, hey, this is your fault. You caused this.
Hmm.
You're in a hurry, you're trying to do your MBA, you want to progress in your as a CTO, you want, then your kids, you're camping, you're doing all, you're the soccer coach, and I was doing so many things, playing tournaments, and all of a sudden this source said, hey, you know what, you're killing yourself here, have a lesson, and I got what I got.
Yeah,
But it's all from the inside out and taking action.
yeah, it
um
is. And
if
it is a taking action thing. We need to wrap up because we're
Yeah.
running out of time. But it's important. I just want to stress this because it's all well and good to listen to this or watch this podcast and say that's a great idea. But if you do the same thing tomorrow that you did today, you have not made a change. Maybe George's or I planted a seed
Mhm.
and good. Maybe the seed will germinate, and maybe the next time you sit down and you think you're in a hurry, you'll slow down or you'll say, wait a minute, what am I holding on to in my body that's poisoning me?
Absolutely. Yes.
And, I took some people through a meditation today and I took them through a forest and then I brought them into an open field and I brought them to a little hill and on top of the hill was a basket. And I said, this is a bottomless basket. It will never fill up, but I want you to mentally write down all your problems on pieces of paper and put them in the basket and then leave the basket alone. Don't worry
Mhm.
about the basket. Don't worry about it. And then I invited them to imagine a divine light on them and on the basket. And I said, and
Beautiful.
just follow the divine light and just let it take you where it's going to take you, but don't worry about the basket. It's not going anywhere and you don't have to do anything.
Hmm.
And I put a
Absolutely.
few of them to sleep, which is
Yeah,
probably
that's fine
okay.
there. Yeah.
But that's okay because they were finally able to let go of something.
Hmm.
and we
Absolutely.
all hold on to so much. We have stress in our shoulders and stress in our
Yeah.
necks and stress in our stomachs. If our stomachs tense up and then we're not digesting properly. But I think it's you talked a little bit about weeds. The way I think of emotional and positive intelligence is we have the neural pathways and we have one that's been well worn, and that well-worn pathway is the pathway of a judge, and
Mm-hmm.
the judge, jury, and executioner, the people pleaser, the controller, the hypervigilant, the hyperachiever,
Mm-hmm.
the victim. And then the path of the sage is the one with empathy and forgiveness and innovative thinking and thinking outside the box and then taking action. The last of the five sage powers is activate. In other words, you
Mm-hmm.
can be empathetic and compassionate and innovative, but and explore ideas, explore new things. But you can do all those things. If you don't take action, then you may as well just go sit back down.
Exactly. Absolutely. An illusion, basically, I'm sorry, an intention without action is an illusion.
There you
And,
go.
it happens every year, New Year's resolution. By March, everybody stopped. You
Yeah.
have to continue taking action. And you know what? The year will go by. You either stop or you follow through. And now you're, very proud of yourself that you made something happen. Your goal was reached.
Yeah. And just one other thing I want to just remind people, if you make a goal and you make progress and then you stop making progress for a while or you slip, that's okay. Just get back up and get going again, right? Everybody falls off a bike when they're learning how to ride a bike. If everyone stopped
Absolutely.
when they fell off a bike, nobody would be riding a
Nobody.
bike in this world.
That's correct.
So get back on your bike. And it's never
Mhm.
too late, clearly, George, right? You're not 22, are you?
No, no. 22 times 4. No, no, times 3.
Okay.
I'll be 64 now on October 12th.
Oh,
So,
happy birthday.
yeah, thank you. And
Yeah. So on that note, I invited Michael Bublé to join us for a moment in our studio.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
And that is our show. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Georges, for sharing your story with us and for giving us all some hope.
thank you.
There
Thank you
is a
very
better
much.
way. And as I said, if you liked this interview, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel so that more people can enjoy the benefits of emotional intelligence. And until next time, I'll see you all at the PQ Gym. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.